Hi, everyone. For this episode of Retention Zone, I want to talk to Gilles Domartini, Cleeng CEO, who just been at NAB in Vegas, but also a long time in the US. So I want to be debrief because I was mostly here in London, in Germany, but not very far. Ciao, Gilles.
Yeah, thanks, Carlo. Great to meet you again. Indeed, just spent almost 2 months in the US, which is good. It's been rare to spend so much time to visit various cities, both East Coast, New York and Chicago, and West Coast, LA, San Francisco, Las Vegas. And definitely the energy coming from all of these conversations, meeting with partners, clients, banks, analysts, potential investors. I think it's always very insightful. And being in the US is also very refreshing. I think there's a degree of innovation that is unparalleled around the world, and certainly in California in particular. It's mind-blowing to see all of these automated cars moving everywhere and automated delivery robots. I think this is really cool.
You've been to the Devoncroft conference, I think, at NAB. Cleeng had a booth, so let's talk about the different things. But first and foremost, what are the highlights of your observation? Because I know you come back and then you strategize a lot around that.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I would say from NAB, a few insights. So it was generally, I think, fairly dynamic NAB, a lot of participants, despite the ban on Chinese tech. And therefore, I know, especially from a robotic drone and cameras, there were definitely a number of prominent vendors that we are not attending, and certainly affected a little bit the audience. But if we look at the software space, they were some of the usual players, the Brightcove, the Google, AWS, or companies like Cleeng, and as well a set of new players like 12 Labs was one of the big newcomer in the category, doing all video indexing at scale using AI automation, which was really an interesting case. So good to see the evolution of this landscape. Good to see new players, and good to see also some of the players that are actually developing and thriving. Bitmovin would be also a good case in the current context.
And in terms of observation of the state of the industry and where things are going there?
About the state of the industry, I think so. Devoncroft was definitely a good, as always, a good show. It's interesting to see how the team articulated. It's interesting to see how Josh articulated, let's say, the development of the industry. I think the industry is going through a constant slowdown a little bit. I think the past few years, the investment in media and entertainment technologies have decreased 2, 3, 4% in average every year. The one category that is booming and continues to boom is the creator economy. Josh had a few slides about the growth of YouTube, the growth of Instagram and TikTok relative to some more classical platforms, the Warner Bros. Of the world and the Paramount and the others. So that's really a very clear rebalancing of value between the historical incumbents of the category in content creation and the new players, which are largely the creators and supported by gigantic new infrastructure like a YouTube, like a TikTok. So that's very interesting, and that creates plenty of opportunities also for companies like Cleeng to better serve this SMB category, you would say. I think it's the fastest growing group, where the margins tends to be also less under pressure. So we think it's a very interesting category to go after, this SMB space of creators.
And more from, if you want, a tech, not a tech point of view, but with a strong tech impact. This all, agentic revolution. Is it really impacting business in this industry, or we're still not really impacted? I'm thinking end-to-end, SaaS, the software apocalypse, whatever they call it. Can you feel the impact or not yet?
I think for sure we can all feel the impact. And whether it was at NAB or also from the conversation with the investment community, I would say that there are two main trends or two main lines of thinking. One is that we are living at very challenging times for large investors, large enterprise firms, which may be a little bit more conservative. And it's the first time, maybe in the last 20 years of the tech industry, that it's very difficult to predict what will happen in the next 2 years, 3 years, right? Imagine you are a large investor. Usually you do investments for, let's say, an horizon of 4, 5, 6 years. And at the moment, beyond, let's say, 24 months, it's very difficult to see what is going to happen. 24 months ago, Claude was still an outlier model. ChatGPT was really dominating. Many people felt that Google may not be able to, fully adapt or survive even that situation. And now, today, for sure, Claude is, picking an incredible momentum. Google is doing extremely well. But what will it be in 24 months from now and 36 months is very difficult to predict. And if you take in the corporate enterprise space, even more so, it's difficult to predict. Because at the moment, there are many consolidation happening. And of course, there's a Paramount Skydance merger and all the saga with Netflix and Warner Bros. Really shows, let's say, the magnitude of consolidation that the industry is going through. You have also like an Harmonic. I think Harmonic was very large in the enterprise category, but is also going through a merger with MediaKind, but historically was also an enterprise class player, or a company that you know well, Delta Tray, as well, going through quite some changes, organizational changes, positioning changes. And all of this makes it very difficult for an enterprise clients to think like, okay, who shall I partner with? Who are the vendors that I can count on in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? And on top of, let's say, this vendor selection, they have their own internal challenges where the CFOs are saying you need to save more. Previously, this cost saving was mostly driven by the, I would say, media and entertainment economics, where you had to figure out savings. But now, on top of this kind of, I would say, business model economics optimization, you need to factor the impact of AI and the impact of AI on productivity and efficiency. So potentially you could do more with less. But then you have all the challenges of change management. So this has to be taken into account. And you also know that if you don't move fast enough, your board, your shareholders will put more pressure to say, okay, we want action. And otherwise you may be part of that list. So it creates a little bit of a frozen situation with some of the enterprise category and some of the investors that are heavily focused on this space. At the same time, you have also a number of parties, both clients or investors, which are saying, actually, this situation is creating tons of opportunities. There is quite some cash available. I think the cash reserves for many of the private equity firms are very large. Their own LPs, the investors in the PE firms, are saying, guys, we need to deploy some cash. And we think that there is a transfer of value between a set of incumbents into new players. And we can really visualize well that transfer of value when we analyze how the stock market has impacted the number of historical NASDAQ darlings or darlings. If you take Atlassian, Salesforce, Snowflake, GitLab, and a few others, they all dropped by 50% in value in just 3 months, since the beginning of the year. So it was a big drop. It's not that this money vanished. The money is still there, but it's been reallocated to Anthropic, Google, NVIDIA, and a few others, and also a number of new players, like we were just mentioning, these 12 labs or 11 labs. They got big financing, big funding, and they are positioning themselves for the future. So now the key challenge for companies, in my view, that were present at NAB is how quickly are you able to adapt to these new realities of the market? How quickly can you do this internal change management? Because we are not AI native firms. We are a bit of legacy firms. But absolutely, like a Google, it's not because you were born 20 years ago that you cannot adapt, or 25 years ago. Same even with an Apple, that continues to innovate very much. So yes, absolutely, we can adapt and innovate. And if you do so, you will find the clients, you will find the financing, and you will find, let's say, the market momentum that you look for.
I think there is a top-down views of this moment of how will the client side build products or change products? How do you build a product today? Maybe you do it different. So the vendor side will need to react to that new way of building stuff. On the other end, the bottom up is a lot of new vendors or vendors that adapt, like Cleeng, will offer clients a different way of building products, and the client will have to react. I think we are in that. There is a bit of uncertainty there.